Did it work? Nah.
Wait, hold on. Are you two?
There's a timer button? Wait, did I put this on backwards?
This thing.
Welcome to Death Metal Pug. Fuck.
Now that's 3.
Welcome to Death Metal Pug. I'm Rainin' Pug. I want to be a rock star when I grow up. The purpose of this video is to talk about music and have fun. I'd like to thank Axl Rose for being on last week's episode.
Who's that?
Who's Axl Rose? You're off the team. Pause. Did we make any notes for this week?
About what?
That's good. Today is Monday, March 3rd, 2025. We're going to talk about best ways to support bands. We got some help from Nate from Spirit Adrift on this. We're going to talk about Cannibal Corpse's best songs by Cannibal Corpse. We're going to talk about the new Nunslaughter album. And then we're going to read some emails. So I had posed a question via email to Nate from Spirit Adrift and Neon Nightmare about the best way to support bands in light of all the complexities around things like merch cuts and streaming music and stuff like that. So we're going to get to that. Nate released that Neon Nightmare album last year, and I found that to be quite fun. I know some people had some kind of negative reactions to that, and I get why, right? Like Typo Negative is a sacred band, and they're never going to be replaced. They're never going to be duplicated. But holy cow, did he give it a shot? Obviously, it was worshiping them, not mocking them. And it was interesting, right? Like how thoughtful it was, laughing all the way to the grave. She's drowning. Just a lot of like fun little songs in the vein of like Typo, Danzig, that kind of stuff.
Start at the top here. Calvin, aka the Death Metal Pug. What is the best way to support a band? You hear about merch cuts, physical copies of stuff. Music apps do not pay much. They don't pay anything. But what gets money into the pockets of bands? We have always heard about buying more merch for support. I have so many shirts and clothes that I have lately just been trying to buy a patch and letting the band keep the change for a 20. It's 6 feet under. I bought a $5 lighter and let them keep the change. Aborted, sold socks for $20 that I suspect have a big profit margin. What's the best way to support a low to mid-level band in 2025? Thanks, Death Metal Pug.
Bit of information about that. So how can we best support our bands? It's interesting in heavy music and extreme music about how nobody really makes any money, right? All of our favorite death metal bands, all of our favorite underground metal bands, they don't make much money, right? It's a passion project. Effectively, they're doing it for survival, and they're having a good time. And I really commend everybody for that. But also, they have to survive, and we want them to be around, right? So what I've been doing is I've been going to concerts, and I've been strongly encouraged to not purchase any more t-shirts. And so that workaround about not purchasing t-shirts lasted for a little while, because then I just purchased the sweatpants or the long sleeve shirt or the basketball shorts. Or what I got at the boarded show the other night at the concert was I bought socks. We should go get those socks.
What about underwear?
But I haven't seen the trousers yet, but I'm sure they're out there. So is buying stuff at the concert the way to go? Doesn't matter where we buy music and how we approach it. So Nate made this very clear that you'll see or have seen from the video that streaming is a ripoff, right? He equates it to the modern day like Napster stealing of free music. just repackaged under a corporate banner, and then that allows for corporations, companies to like stream through and do it. So in a hugely hypocritical sense, like, yeah, a lot of us have Spotify. Yeah, a lot of us listen to Apple Music and then some other stuff that I'm probably not aware of, right? For that, he did mention that Bandcamp is not included in this category. So while we buy that album from Bandcamp, or we buy those things from there, that he felt like that was okay. So he said if you pay $8 for a digital album from Bandcamp, that he'll usually net like $4, $6, something like that, which actually is a really good deal, right? So a couple of things that we got confirmed, right? You don't make money off streaming unless you're like have a bajillion like streams. Okay, that's not going to apply for our genre, right? Nate said from Spirit Adrift, if he has 1 million streams, he'll get like $5. So what that means is a person streaming that song 1 million times will net him like $5. Not a great deal. He said buy physical stuff. He said go to Bandcamp, buy physical stuff, and then definitely, yes, buy things at the merch, from the merch store, buy the items, okay? So like, for example, 6 Feet Under, and I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but I want to show support for the band, right? And I have enough apparel, right? How many cattle decapitation, like pajamas can I possibly have, right? Or whatever you got, and there's all kinds of cool stuff. I've seen beach towels, all kinds of neat stuff. So what he said was buying things from the band. So it is still buying stuff, merchandise from the bands. So I know certain venues take merch cuts and they're not real happy about that. So maybe like a solve is something a little different. Maybe it's buying from Bandcamp, from the band directly. I remember when the pandemic happened, I understood that bands weren't gonna go on tour anymore. That was a big issue. When I can't go to a concert anymore, I understand. Yeah, we had the big overreaction to it, I understand. But I thought, how can I support the bands, and especially the like smaller up and comer ones that I wanted to be around? So at that time during the pandemic, what I did was basically logged on. It would have been 2020, right? Because the pandemic started like mid-March 2020, or at least the part where we were all made to go home, and then a little bit later in April, wearing masks and stuff like that. So went to Bandcamp and found the bands, purchased the t-shirts or apparel or things or stuff, and like that, maybe it's a cassette tape, and then went ahead and supported the bands that way. So it got out there. They got some dough. They can't get it from touring. It's been a cliche, right? That being in a band, you are passionate and make music, and then you become a t-shirt salesman. And so as we stand here, March 3rd, 2025, selling t-shirts and buying physical items from a band continue to be right now the best way to support a band.
Discover Gumi, Naperville's hidden gem for authentic Korean cuisine. Located at 3124 South Route 59, Gumi offers a cozy and inviting atmosphere perfect for any occasion. Savor traditional dishes like sizzling hot stone bibimbap, flavorful kimchi yage, or savory bulgogi, all crafted with fresh ingredients and time-honored recipes. Don't miss our signature Gumi sliders, a modern twist on classic flavors. Join us Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. till 8:30 p.m. or Sunday 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Experience the rich taste of Korea right here in Naperville at Gumi.
Thank you, Gumi. I do go there. I love it. Here's a picture of them back in the day when they opened the restaurant, and I highly recommend it. If you have a reason to reach out to Death Metal Pug, you may do so. You can do that via deathmetalpug@gmail.com, deathmetalpug@gmail.com. The start of Lent is the concrete reality of death. We've entered into that season, right? And a band called Nunslaughter just released what I think is a live album, and it was from Chicago. Let's get rid of the last one then. Nunslaughter, and we'll get to some information about them in a bit, released an album called Thalia Hell, which is, I believe, a play off of Thalia Hall, which is a concert venue in Chicago. So at the beginning of the album, it says something about Chicago, like referencing the city kind of thing. So after putting information into Chat GPT about Nunslaughter, I mean, after doing extensive research on the internet about Nunslaughter, I have some information for you. This is a band that I have heard about for a long time, but never really gotten into, right? So it feels like they've been around for a while, and they've been around a bit, but I just never really crossed paths with them, right? Feels like. So Nunslaughter is an American death metal band formed in 1987 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania by Dawn of the Dead, which is Donald Kratzky. The band is known for its raw, primitive sound, anti-Christian themes, and relentless dedication to the underground metal scene. Their music blends elements of death metal with thrash and black metal, influences often characterized by short, aggressive songs. In the early years, like 1987, like this is how far this goes back, right? Like, this is just after Master of Puppets times, right? 1986, 1987 through 90s. They spent a lot of time as part of the growing death metal movement, you know, inspired by bands like Venom, Slayer, Hellhammer, that kind of stuff. They aimed to create an extreme and blasphemous sound. Throughout the 1990s, Nunslaughter focused on releasing a series of demos and EPs. Their underground reputation grew as they distributed music through tape trading and small independent labels. This DIY approach became the defining characteristic of the band. Rising from the underground was the name of this next paragraph in 2000s, but they're not out of the underground, right? They released their full debut length album called Hell's Unholy Fire in the year 2000, about 25 years ago. The album captured their raw, aggressive style and gained them a loyal following. Rather than focusing on full-length releases, the band continued to prioritize splits, EPs, and live recordings, release an extensive discography of underground material. Their second album, Goat, can we put in like a picture of like screaming goats or something here?
Sure.
Their second album, Goat, was released in 2003, followed by Hex in 2007. During this period, they became known for the relentless output, often recording songs in a single take and keeping the music fast and unpolished. All right, so up to the present day, they have a strong underground presence through the 2010s. Even this whole thing contradicts itself. Releasing countless limited edition vinyl, cassettes, and split releases. Despite numerous lineup changes, Dawn of the Dead remains the only consistent driving force behind the band. Tragedy struck in 2010 when longtime drummer Jim Sadist passed away due to a stroke. They continue to release new albums, and they had a new one in 2021 called Red is the Color of Ripping Death. So we are, you know, the stuff I hear every once in a while from them is almost like all sounds live anyway. So I guess that kind of makes sense if it's done in one shot or, you know, one recording. So they have a DIY mentality. It seems like their influence can be seen in a lot of places on modern death metal, black and thrash bands, and any band that really, you know, likes a raw, unstripped, or rather stripped down sound, if you will. With hundreds of releases spanning 3 decades, Nunslaughter remains one of the most prolific bands in death metal history, proving that underground metal can thrive outside of the commercial sphere. So that new album, Thulia Hell, it's not good. It's not good. I only got through like 4 songs on that thing. It's so rough. It's got so much like, it just sounds like, it sounds like, you know, when I record this stuff and put it on here, it doesn't sound very good. It sounds like it was recorded in like a gas station bathroom. We're gonna read some emails after this next spot, but what we want to do is we want to take a look at the Cannibal Corpse's best songs. Cannibal Corpse's best songs. I'm gonna get to see them next month, early April, part of the Meshuggah and part of the Carcass tour. Boy, sure hope I get to go to that. I got a ticket. It's looking likely. Cannibal Corpse is an American death metal band. They have been around since the 80s as well, much like Nunslaughter, but they have released a lot of good music. Cannibal Corpse has many albums, and you know, if I was any good at this, I would have like looked up that information ahead of time. And what I want to do here today is we're going to go over Cannibal Corpse best songs. These are Cannibal Corpse best songs. I'm gonna start right out of the gate by pissing everybody off and letting you know that the first Cannibal Corpse album doesn't have any songs that qualify for Cannibal Corpse best songs. I'm sorry, but Eating Back the Life is a decent album, but it is not the Cannibal Corpse album. It is not the reason we're still rocking Cannibal Corpse today. Cannibal Corpse second album is where things really start to lift off. So Cannibal Corpse album, second album, called Butchered at Birth, released in July 1991, is really where the band starts to develop their sound in a pure death metal way. Chris Barnes remains the vocalist in this on this album, I mean to say. So my two favorite songs from this album are Gutted. No, I don't like the opener, Meat Hook Sodomy. There's something about, and I think it's meant to be this way, but there's something about the that opening sound on that album that hurts my ears. So I penalize them for that. If I could just like cut that out and get to the music, probably would make that list, but I don't like starting off the thing with that. So they have such a gnarly sound at the beginning of a death metal album that I don't care for it. And wow, that's super hypocritical. I get it. And then the second song I like from this album, one of Cannibal Corpse's best songs, is of course Vomit the Soul. Do you agree with me on that? Deicide's Glenn Benton is of course also doing vocals on this song, and it sounds so Glenn Benton-y like and so cool. It's awesome. I was like, Vomit the Soul. I mean, that's, you know, everybody's heard that thing. It's awesome. I wish we could get them to play it live, right? Cannibal Corpse's third album was called Tomb of the Mutilated. It was released in September of 1992. They really cranked the stuff out back then. This is considered one of their best albums. So basically there are two albums that you could say are the best Cannibal Corpse albums, right? There's only two, just objectively. It is Tomb of the Mutilated, or it's the next one, right? So Tomb of the Mutilated, right, has the classics, Hammer Smashed Face, love that. Perhaps the most well-known and most famous death metal song in history. Also, the second song, I See Blood, C, letter C, just what a ripper, right? And then, of course, the three, and these are all sequential on the album. We do have this pattern with Cannibal Corpse, so they front load their albums for the most part, for most of them, right? So Addicted to V-Skin is, of course, the third. It has that very horrendous kind of opening bit from a movie or something like that, and then just, you know, rips into this amazing song. Addicted to V-Skin is, of course, Cannibal Corpse. One of their best songs off Tomb of the Mutilated. And, you know, at some point you have to cut off songs off of an album, right? And this is, you know, this is where we stand for Tomb of the Mutilated. I'm sure you have a favorite. If you want to let me know, you can type it in. You can email deathmetalpug@gmail. You can talk about it yourself. You could really just keep it to yourself. Like, if you disagree with something I'm saying, you could just not tell me or anybody. I mean, that's also another option. You could just be like, hey, I like a different song. And I'll be like, well, I understand that, because sometimes I like a different song as well. For me personally, the best Cannibal Corpse album is The Bleeding. Some people are going to be a little upset with that statement. And I understand if some of you are under the age of like 35, right? And you think some of the other more modern ones are better. It's not that they are bad albums. It's just that they are not better, because you heard them like when they were released in 2018. And it was the first time you heard it, and you went back, and now they seem less exciting. Because as people, we are privileged to all music now, so we don't get to live it and feel it and have the story as when it comes out. Because a lot of times the music and the information is about when something happens. Like, I can remember when The Bleeding came out, where I was in school. where I was doing, and if you didn't hear it, you remember where you were maybe the first time you heard it, or when you experienced doing something, right, or being around a particular thing. So it's like more about what was occurring, right? So maybe like metal was opening up to you, and you were getting of an age where you're like exploring certain death metal. Those albums are great, but let's get back to the bleeding, right? So the best songs of this album are super obvious. Staring Through the Eyes of the Dead, and yes, it's the first songs on the album again. Bleeped with a Knife. The thing about Cannibal Corpse that is kind of interesting, right? They don't work in metaphors and similes and like constructs of like different layering or poems, or things can be interpreted different ways. No, the song Effed with the Knife is about being effed with the knife, right? And then the song called Stripped, Raped, and Strangled is about running a daycare. No, I'm just kidding. It is a horrible story about like a serial killer or something else horrible that's going on, that's happening kind of thing. For me personally, SR and Strangled is probably, probably their best song of all time, right? I've met many people where they feel that's the case. I think Chris Barnes feels that's the case. I think a lot of members of CC feel that's the case, right? So it's definitely in the top 5. Let's leave it at that. The Bleeding album came out April 1994. All these are on Metal Blade, so I don't think I have to say that anymore, unless there's one I forgot. And now we're going to shift into the fuzzy era, kind of the fuzzy time when people stopped listening. So in 1996, Cannibal Corpse released in May the Vile record. Vile was an interesting change. Chris Barnes got kicked out of the band. Sorry, Chris. Interesting. I read some stuff why, and it's not clear. They wanted him out. He was a crazy person. I don't know. He did a good job, right? He did a good job, and now he's, kind of coming around. He's doing a 6 Feet Under thing for the whole time. We've got a little video for that. If you want to check it out, check out the Chris Barnes video. It's gotten a lot of views. A lot of people have commented on it. Check it out. So the Vile record, right? I hope you know that I listened to the whole album, but the best song on the album is, of course, Devoured by Vermin.
You just like
Ravenous.
You just say it normally.
Devoured by Vermin. Devoured by Vermin. Bloodthirsty rabbit devoured by vermin. All right, I'll stop. And then I actually, for this, I went back and listened to this album again, and I was like, there has to be another song that's better than Mummified by Barbed Wire. I couldn't come up with it. There's one on there, like Badlands or something like that. Is that the one? And that's kind of an interesting little like excursion, if you will. But my gosh, those two are great. The Mummified and Barbed Wire, the beginning of that with the riffing is just so cool. It's hard to go against that song from there. So 2 songs from Vile, but just one on the next one. Gallery of Suicide was released in April 1998. And the best song on that album, and I think this is kind of well known, is titled From Skin to Liquid. And I guess this one can be interpreted differently because there are no vocals on this thing. It has one of the coolest riffs in death metal history. Wah, 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 wah. It's got that whole cool kind of riff that circles back and carries the song through. So really good on the songwriting structure. And probably one of the albums that I need to listen to a little bit more, right? Gallery of Suicide, From Skin to Liquid. The next best Cannibal Corpse song would come off of their for me, I need to hang on here a second. I have a treasure hidden away for myself for someday when I need it, when I want it. Have you ever not listened to a band's whole discography, or at least in a way that was more thoughtful? So for me, Bloodthirst, released in October 1999, is this album. So I have not given this enough tries and enough fair tries to kind of take a look at this. And I will do that. So I don't have any entries from Bloodthirsty because I'm saving this as a future treat for myself, if you will. And I think that's kind of fun. I didn't live this album in '99, so I didn't hear it and live through it. This is one I did have to go back to. I kind of changed over to some other stuff, listening to some other things back then, more often or frequent, if you will. So this one's a treasure hidden away for me. Let me know what your favorite is from the Bloodthirst album. I'd be curious. Or if you don't want to tell me, I don't care. But the next album is called Gore Obsessed, released in February 2002. It's interesting how these are all kind of stacked pretty close together. Gore Obsessed has long been known as the missing Cannibal Corpse album. People just don't pay much attention to it. So it had come out in 2002. If we think about death metal at that time, not at the forefront then, right? Where we've got a lot of stuff going. We've got new metal in full swing and back down again. We've got not the new wave of like death metal kind of rolling through. Tech death is not yet on the horizon in a very serious fashion. We don't have Necrophagus. We don't have Annihilation of the Wicked. We don't have some other stuff I'm forgetting, right? So Gore Obsessed dropped in early 2002 in a very non-death metal-y kind of time frame, if you will. A lot of people know Pit of Zombies. I think they still do that live. Pit of Zombies, you know, just that pounding, like just the whole thing. And then the other song that I wanted to raise up from this that I enjoy every time I hear it on the album is Dormant Bodies Bursting. So if you know that song, you can kind of hear Corpse Grinder gutturally saying those words over and over. Dormant Bodies Bursting. It's just kind of like a fun ride. So that's why I plucked that off of Gore Obsessed. A lot of people kind of find that album a little flat. I think that's the case for this era here, this Vile 96 to what we'll talk about next kind of era, is the production just doesn't punch you in the face, and that's kind of what they were going through back then. They did probably decide not to over compress things in a super bad way, and so that probably had positive results at the end, by the end, for the sound and the band and kind of like trendy stuff, if you will. But it also like made it feel a little flat amongst other things, right? Is what I'm pointing out. So the next album and the next songs that we're talking about come off of the Wretched Spawn. I think this is a hidden gem that needs to be raised up more. So the Wretched Spawn released in February 2004, almost exactly 2 years after Gore Obsessed. This album is underrated. It's underrated by the fact that a lot of people don't know as many songs from it, if you will. So the best one, of course, is the title track, The Wretched Spawn. Love that, slowed down a touch. It's got that cool kind of chorus. And then one song that I just will always listen to and always really enjoy. The other one I'll raise up here is called Decency Defiled. So that appears on the front half of the album too. And it is awesome. Decency Defiled. So in like kind of other Cannibal Corpse fashion or albums, a lot of this thing is front loaded, but you'll find some gems on the back. You'll find some gems on the back. So take a look at the Wretched Spawn, and more specifically, pull up that track Decency Defiled. I think you'll like that. That brings us to 2006, and we've got like the rebirth, the re-beginning of Cannibal Corpse, the thing that launched them into the modern era stratosphere. That is, of course, the famous, maybe infamous, Kill album. Plainly colored, did not have zombies on the front or, skeletons doing sexual stuff to each other on the cover. No, this one just had the letters K-I-L-L on the front. Letting everybody know what's up with this thing, right? A little bit of noise, so we had to cut from that, if you will. So I thought we were gonna play music this time too, or something back then. Got fucked up on that? No? Kill album. is probably going down as an all-time classic. There's a strong case to be made that this is the third best Cannibal Corpse album, and that is probably true. The Kill album. Eric Rutan started producing albums then, very famous guitarist in multiple bands, Hate Eternal, I think, and of course filled in for Morbid Angels, one of the members as well. Best songs off of this are probably really well known, but they are, of course, The Time to Kill Is Now, the opening track. Make Them Suffer. What a cool song. Just, I mean, Corpse Grinder just makes everything work, right? This album just starts off with like a scream too, much like the Vile album. It's just like, so far. But the next couple songs, you know them as well. So Five Nails Through the Neck, terrific song. I believe it's in 5/5 time signature. Not smart enough to understand these things, but that's what's explained to me. And Death Walking Terror. What a cool kind of song. It's got that heavy kind of riffing, you know, at the beginning of it. And it's super terrific. It's super terrific. What a great album. You can listen to that thing all the way through. I remember when that came out in 06. I would put it in my earbuds. I'd go for a jog. And it was just like kind of like a nice album to move your feet to, I guess, in a lot of different ways. After Kill, they released the album in 2009 called Evisceration Plague. And I have not, the best song on this album is the title track, and I haven't given this thing enough chance. So much like the Bloodthirsty album, I got to go back and revisit this. It's a modern era kind of classic. So I will take a look at that. And revisit that. And then we've got the March 2012 release, Torture. Now, a lot of people would say this is their first or second or third favorite Cannibal Corpse album, and I could understand why. Scourge of Iron is a fantastic song. They play it live. It's slowed down, you know, a little bit. It's got like a slower beat to it. Scourge of Iron. But really what does it for me is the track after called Encased in Concrete. I just roam around the house every once in a while going, Encased in Concrete.
It's true. It's true.
It's amazing. Torture is a great album. Scourge of Iron, Encased in Concrete are the best songs from that. Skeletal Domain. Fire up the chainsaw. That's all I got to say about that. Kill or Become is the best song on Skeletal Domain, released in September of 2014. Red Before Black is an album that I have not dipped into enough. Squirreling that one away. There's a song that they play live, they have played live, that they'll continue to do. Let's move to the modern stuff. Violence Unimagined was released in April 2021. I understand this was the album that was supposed to come out a little earlier, but it was like the pandemic one. Folks didn't want to release albums and go touring. Kind of gets at the stuff we were talking about before with like being in a band, making music, being musical, and then going out and being a t-shirt salesperson. Or selling stuff and things like that, right? So they, you know, shelve it in hopes like going out, supporting it, touring it, raising hype, and kind of like, you know, selling things for it. Violence Unimagined did have a couple of great tracks on it, I think. Necrogene Resurrection, Necrogenic Resurrection is, of course, what I mean to say. Inhumane Harvest, Everything Must Go. Corpse Grinder with just rocking the hooks on this thing. So amazing. So amazing. And the last one that I like, and I liked a lot from this one, and maybe it's a little hot, coming in a little hot due to its frequency, or most recently, I should say, its recent release is Surround, Kill, and Devour. Every time Corpse Grinder says that, Surround, Kill, Devour, it's wonderful. So many wonderful like riffs and just, you know, like great things that CC has provided us over the years. The other best songs of theirs are on their most recent or last released album, which is Chaos Horrific. Came out in September 2023. Wait a minute, we might get one this year, 25. We'll see. I heard maybe they were in the studio. Did I see that somewhere? Maybe maybe the drummer was. Someone for Sacrifice, that one's okay. You know, this album I didn't quite connect to as much yet. As we know, we have a few that I need to listen to more, longer, better. This is definitely one of them. But the closer on this thing, Drain You Empty, is epic. So make it all the way through the album, or start on that one. A little pro tip if you're into death metal: start on the last album, start on the last song of an album. Let it play from there. You'll have a nice little surprise and launching point. You know, Nate from Spirit of Drift came up earlier, and I'm just going to steal something he said that I believe he said quite some time ago. Every Cannibal Corpse album and probably song is an A. It's just a matter of, is it an A minus, or is it an A plus, or is it an A kind of thing, right? So when you think of like Kill, A plus, right? When we think of The Bleeding, A plus, awesome. When we think of something like Gallery of Suicide, A minus, that's okay. When we think of something like Torture, maybe that's an A plus. Maybe Violence Unimagined is an A minus. You know, just those kind of things. So, in my opinion, these are the best Cannibal Corpse songs. Do you have a favorite? If you do, you know, it's something that you can think about and record. If you disagree with my favorite Cannibal Corpse songs, keep it to yourself. I don't care. What do you mean last part before I go?
Bro.
Is it for the video or for the...
Yeah.
I messed up one of those songs. So necrogenic is the process of necrosis, which is the localized death of living tissue. So necrogenic resurrection must be like probably something to do with zombies. Cannibal Corpse, best songs. Last thing we're gonna do before we fly out of here today. Last time I did put my email on this, and I did that for, I'm not sure why I did that. deathmetalpug@gmail.com. I'm gonna go ahead and read some of those emails. I'm not gonna pretend like I haven't seen these already, because hopefully I'm at least a little sincere with you or something. Read some of these emails. All right, first one that I got that ever came into deathmetalpug@gmail.com. First email I ever received. Wish I would have, why didn't I just like have these ready? Okay, first email. Are you stupid? They did not sign their name. So in trying to be a little sincere about this, I thought, yeah, let me tackle this. The answer is you know, probably yes. Just through multiple mistakes that have been made in life, decisions, goofy stuff. Yeah. If you don't care for it, I recommend that you get used to it, or just kind of hang out more. And you know, it might grow on you. I'm not sure. So. Thank you very much for your email. The next email that I received, the person did not sign their name either. And they said, they chose not to ask a question, but instead just wrote, "You are fat and gay." So 50% of this is true. Yes, I will. Actually, I try to, you know, like do a little better this year with my health and wellness and eating and stuff, so I can rock out more at concerts, right? So at the end of 2024, went to the doctor and had like the blood work done and all that, and then they get the results and you go and you have like the physical and you meet with the doctor. My doctor's like, "Hey, you know, your blood work came back and I'm taking a look at your physical and you're checked out." He's like, you gotta quit drinking so much. You gotta quit eating so much meat. You gotta quit, you gotta like exercise more. You gotta like have more, you gotta have salads and more vegetables. And so obviously in my 2025 New Year's resolution was, of course, to stop going to the doctor. The other part of this is that whether or not someone is homosexual is it does not matter. It's just how you're born, right? So being in that way is not a negative. It's just how a person is. Kind of like how I was born super pasty, or like how I was born, so tall, kind of thing. Things beyond your control. So it's not a negative to call somebody that. It's not a negative to be that, of course. And it's very interesting how many more people you can meet in the world if you don't act and do stuff like that. So you send a sarcastic email, you send an email being a dick, I will give you a dad lecture. That's how this rolls. That's it. Death Metal Boom!